Hey YouTube, what's up? So my name is Anthony.
And I'm Ray.
And we are with The Stack, and today we have a topic that sits very deep in my heart, and it is this card right here. It's Omnimon X Antibody, and why I personally believe it should go in every single Digimon deck regardless of the color.
And why I personally believe that it shouldn't be even in the decks that you can Digivolve from.
Alright, so first let's just talk about X Antibody as it is right now. So at first, there was a lot of energy and excitement around the card. I heard from one friend that for the alt art, there was one guy who paid for pre-release, he paid $500 just to get his hand on one of the pre-release versions of the alt art. And it went from that $500, some people willing to pay, all the way down to, I think if you look at TCG Player, it's around $50 for the alt art. And the regular one is getting close to 10. It was like around 15 last time I checked. And that is injustice towards a card that is so good. Okay? Now, I'll let you go first. Tell me why you think people just do not value this card, or why you don't value this card.
First of all, above anything, I'm a green player. I also play yellow and purple. But one, it doesn't go in any of my decks, right? And two, I think that even on the red and the blue decks where it can totally go, it's a little bit too much work for very little payoff. When you Digivolve up to him, he does have good payoffs. I'm not gonna say that he doesn't have good payoffs, but those payoffs are very limited. Also, I think that blue and red have better options that go better with the blue and red game plan rather than just Omnimon X. Omnimon X is good for removal, good for stopping your opponent, but the other Omnimons, like Omnimon with Blitz, synergizes so good with the red game that it's insane. Just look at Shoutmon DX, and even Tribal Gray. All those decks, like, just give them security, and you are able to end the game like super quick if you're able to take out an Omnimon X or Omnimon with Blitz out first. Also, you have Omnimon Alteres, right? Alteres is really good. It does, when you think about it, it does half the things that Omnimon Antibody does. Because it de-digivolves and may clear the board, and also you can swing without having to be blocked. Also, BT1 Omni, super underrated card. I love this card. You're totally going to be able to wipe out some things, and not just that, you're able to do different, many more swings. I think that you played me with a MacLeod deck, right, that uses that Omnimon, right? And one, he was able to clear my blocker, and two, on the next turn, he was able to swing for 2 checks, and then restand, swing for another 2 checks. So I think that in the red and blue decks, Omnimon Blitz, Omnimon Alteres, and BT1 Omnimon are the better way to go.
So now we have my stance, right? So here's what I'm going to do, a little bit different. I said that you could put Omnimon X in every color, and I still do believe that. I will say that as much as you could put him in any color, in every deck build, I would only run him at 1. For red and blue decks, maybe 2, but if you were to run him in any color, I would say just 1. And the 2 colors that most everyone would know is definitely reaching is green and yellow. So here's gonna be, because I'm gonna make a case for Omnimon X. What I want you to do, Ray, is just throw a color at me, and I'll say how you can use Omnimon X in a color deck.
All right, you started. Let's do yellow.
Yellow. All right. So yellow, as you know. All right. So let's actually read the effect for Omnimon X real quick, right? So your Digimon with Omnimon in its name can Digivolve into this card in your hand for a memory cost of 3, ignoring this card's Digi-Evolution requirements. Alright, so you can Digivolve this over any Omnimon for a cost of 3. Delete when attacking. Delete one of your Digimon's DP less than or equal to this Digimon's DP. And then on your opponent's turn, when your opponent's Digimon attacks, you can trash 2 of this Digimon's Digi-Evolution cards to end the attack altogether. So, since he normally Digivolves over a red or blue level 6, the question is posed, how can we put him in a, you said yellow?
Yellow.
A yellow deck. So there's only one way to get him into a yellow deck, because the standard level 7 for yellow is Chaosmon, either Valderarm, or actually no, just Valderarm, really. So the way that you'd have to do it is that you run Mastamon, which is a purple level 6, and then you can Digivolve him over a Zwart after you put your Zwart over your Mastamon, or Zwart Defeat. Now again, like I said, this is reaching. This isn't the most optimal way to do it, but I have seen yellow decks that run Mastamon and Zwart Defeat. I would probably lean more towards the route of Zwart Defeat just because he's cheaper. He could come out of security.
He actually has a payoff, which Omnimon Zwart doesn't in yellow.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Omnimon Zwart only revives black or purple Digimon. So if you do it over your Mastamon, unless you're doing a crazy purple yellow build, you're not gonna get much of a return. So Zwart Defeat is definitely the route you would want to go. And then during a clutch play, you would do Omnimon X on top of that. And again, it's reaching. The cool thing about yellow is that with Blinding Ray, the memory plays that you could do are insane, and you can then control your opponent's board in like a bigger way than before. So you would go into Zwart Defeat, delete one of their tamers. Most oftentimes, unless someone's searching a whole lot, they're gonna have like one tamer. They're not gonna see a need to play multiple tamers unless you're doing Marcus Damon, you're doing multiple searches with Davis or TK. They're gonna have one tamer, so killing off their one memory tamer is very valuable. And then going into X Antibody, swinging, taking out literally anybody. Like the only way a Digimon is gonna get out of this effect is one of two things. Either one, it's a Craniumon, a Craniumon that's protecting its blockers, or two, it's a Lord Nightmon or like a Final Zubagon Digimon that has like the all turns DP buff that brings it above 16,000. So other than that, yeah, that's how you can run X Antibody. Is it super optimal? I would say no. That's why I would only run absolutely one. You might run 2 or 3 Zwart Defeats, maybe even 4 if you're feeling crazy, like you're really trying to get him out of security. You're gonna run a full set of Mastamon, maybe 2 of a side level 6, and Mastamon's gonna be your main hitter, and that's how you would have X Antibody in yellow.
Now you said that you can bring it out on green. How can you
Absolutely, 100%. So in green, right, we're talking green base. Your level 6 is going to be Imperial Dramon, the blue one with jamming, right? Easy. And even better, because he could Digivolve directly onto Imperial Dramon, and then you could run, just these 2 Omnis. You got the BT1 Omni and the Blitz Omni. You could run, 2 of this, 2 of this, 1 of this, 2 of this, wherever you see fit, and then boom, just, again, I'd probably go 1, because unless you're gonna, there are a few decks that run just 4 level 6s. I'm not a huge fan of that, because if for some reason your level 6s are having a party at the bottom of your deck, then you're gonna be in a very tough spot if you heavily rely on going into your level 6. I'd run just 1 X Antibody. Your other level 6 is probably going to be green Imperial Dramon. And then, yeah, so just 1 of him and then maybe 2 or 3 of the other Omnis. And boom, you got your X Antibody in play. You're going for killer plays when he comes out. Because that's one of the things that Imperial Dramon struggles with is defense. And granted, you can make the argument Imperial Dramon's an aggressive deck that wants to win quick. But sometimes you gotta defend. Maybe you're playing it against another aggressive deck. You need to stall them out, right? You go into one of your Omnis, throw this one on top, or maybe you just put this over your Imperial Dramon. You stop your opponent's attacks. Right now, we're in a game state, we're in a meta where people are not running as much like hard removal. There isn't as much Trump Sword, there isn't as much Gaia Force. It's there, but not as much. So being able to get rid of X Antibody, even for yellow, is gonna be a challenge. So that's how I run them in green.
Now I have a question for you.
Yes.
Considering X Antibody's effect, and considering that you can run it in every single deck, how would every deck benefit from running an X Antibody? You already mentioned that Imperial Digimon would benefit, right, with having an X Antibody, right, because it struggles with removal. Yeah, of course, that I can understand, right? But it also has different forms of removal, right? Imperial Digimon has the form of removal in terms of Cocytus Breath. It has access to, depending on the color that you run, and in terms of green, it has access to Flower Cannon, it has access to
Positron
Laser. And the yellow, you can run it on yellow for sure, but yellow lacks no form of removal. Mm-hmm. So what kind of benefits do you see in running an Omnimon X Antibody in every single one of the decks?
So I think the one thing, right, think about this. He is so undervalued that almost no one is going to expect him in your deck, right? Especially if you have a color that is contrary to Omnimon X Antibody. For example, I'm primarily a black Digimon player, right? So I play with my black cards. I run Craniumon, I mess around with Ragnalordmon. I have a new black-red Omni build that I'm trying out. And when I bring, like, once someone sees the base of your deck, they're not going to expect, like, something like X Antibody to come out. They're thinking about the usual cards that come out with that color. Mm-hmm. So you run X Antibody. Let's say your opponent does a play expecting, what to normally expect from your deck. They're like, okay, it's this color, I've seen these cards, and typically these are the cards you would see in this kind of build, so I'm going to make these plays accordingly. Catch them off guard, you bring in X Antibody, and you punch them accordingly. And the thing is, he's a form of removal and also another layer of control as well. And like I said, he's not the main guy in your deck. The goal of your deck doesn't change to get X Antibody out. The goal of your deck still remains whatever the goal of your deck is. X Antibody is just a spicy optional tech that you can have in there that buffs it, that boosts it, if you have Omnis in your deck. Now, if you're running a Lord Nightmon deck and you have Chaosmon, Balderarm, if you're one of those guys, which is almost everyone, like half a tournament, then yeah, you can't run X Antibody. But if you have the option to, if you know you're running Mastamon and you wouldn't mind putting Zwart Defeat in, just tech one in. Just one. Especially to have a cool play where Zwart Defeat comes out, you pop X Antibody onto it after that, and then swing. I especially love the plays where you swing into a suspended Digimon and use the effect to blow up another Digimon, and you just get massive control over your opponent's board in that way. So yeah, I think it's mainly the surprise factor, and you'd be surprised how, because he's so undervalued. I can keep going with this. You'd be surprised how a lot of people still don't know what he does because of how undervalued he is. They what does he do? What does that Omni do? Because everyone's always thinking about all of the other Omnis. No one's thinking about X Antibody, so they don't know what he does. And he just really catches them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other points that you want to add to it?
I think if you're running red or blue and you have Omnis in your deck, he is a must. If you're not running at least one, you're doing something wrong. There are just so many life-saving plays that you can make with him. Like, just to name a few, you think Lord Nightmon, right? Lord Nightmon goes stupid wide if the hand is good, stupid wide. Being able to go into X Antibody, potentially getting rid of Lord Nightmon, and then stopping that whiteboard. Because it's one thing to put out blockers, but blockers can easily get deleted by DP reduction. Since he's so much harder to delete that way, even if he's suspended, right? and the normal play would be reduce his DP so that he's low enough to kill.
Mm-hmm.
You keep stopping the attacks. You stop and you stop, and they're wasting so much energy trying to get rid of your X antibody that you could punish them right after that. Or even if they're like, you know what, I'm not going to worry about the X antibody. I'm going to go into security. Well, sucks. I'm removing my sources. You can't attack. And then, you come back with your plays. I think X antibody, again, is just very undervalued. And I think if people really tried to, I don't want to say build a deck around him, but made him complementary to their decks, they could have crazy comebacks. I've had crazy comebacks when I was able to pull him off. And again, my deck is black. It's not he's not easily played in my deck. I have to have an Omni to be able to put him in.
Well, I still think that
didn't change your mind one bit.
Didn't change my mind one single bit. But I do think that certain decks, just like you said, do benefit from running just one. I wouldn't run any more than one, even on red or blue, just because he's so much memory, and he doesn't necessarily go much with the game plans. He removes his own sources to stop attacks, and red and blue definitely rely on their sources as much as they can. So removing those sources with Omni Antibody can be counterproductive. It can be advantageous to you in certain moments, but then when it comes back to your turn and you have to swing and you don't have a single one of your sources that are vital to your game plan, I think that that's where you go wrong. But I do see the benefit on running just one, and I think that one factor that you missed that I would definitely give to X Antibody, especially in other colors, is the hype factor. You totally missed that. There's nothing more hype than
the hype factor.
Nothing
we're
more hype.
We're not talking strategy here. We're talking about how cool it is.
How hype it is.
Drop an X Antibody into play.
Into a deck that has nothing to do with it. And then win. Because it's happened to me. I know how hype it is when you drop.
Absolutely, bro.
when he plays his Zwart defeat, pops one of my tamers, and then goes Omnimon X Antibody, and he just has one Digimon that he can just finish the game with. That's hype. That is definitely hype. But other than that, I don't think that he belongs in any deck other than red or blue. I'll give it to you. You are able to play it off, but that's really it for me, at least. I don't think that I don't run him in any of my red or blue decks. Just because, again, like I mentioned, he's very counterproductive to that. But that's really it. I don't think that he's that good. I think that the spot where he's at right now is well deserved. I do think though that the alternate art deserves a little more respect. It doesn't reserve a $240 drop.
It doesn't deserve that.
But that just means that the game is doing good. That just means that there's a lot of supply going on, and it's a really good card. So if you're on Anthony's side, feel free to go on and pick up your dozens of Omnimon X just so that you can run one in your decks. Or if you're on my side, don't forget to go and pick them up so that you can collect them.
Yeah, mark my words too. There's more sets coming out, and Omnimon is their most popular Digimon. There's no way there isn't going to be more support for him in the future.
I definitely think that with the support, didn't want to bring up BT07, but with the support that we're seeing for X Antibody on BT07, I wouldn't doubt that there would be any support of Antibody in any other color. In which way, if that does come to fruition, Anthony's
I got a deck list for you. I got quite the deck list.
He's gonna have quite the deck list for you, in every single color. So if the support for Antibody comes out, I think that he'll become more viable. But as of right now, the current state, I don't think so. But
thanks for being honest. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Stack. You guys have a good one.
Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you think that Anthony's on the right, feel free to comment. If you think that I'm on the right, tell him why he's wrong.
Yo.
And share with everyone. So we'll be back. Stay tuned and stay stacking.
Nice.